Bang, bang. What's up? Lunch money time. While Wall Street's trying to get rich, the rest of us just trying to get our lunch money right. Coming to you every day, noon-ish, is because we don't got our shit together, sometimes before noon, afternoon, right at noon, or 5 p.m. The beautiful and intelligent Polina Marinova is here to keep us on track. What's up?
Well,
how's life going?
For me,
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
But for 5.245 million Americans, not so great.
What happened?
More than 5 million Americans filed first-time claims for unemployment this week.
So 5.2 million Americans, it was reported this morning, unemployment claims in the last week. Add that to the 16 million unemployment claims the 3 weeks before that, puts us at almost 22 million unemployment claims in a month. 22 million. If you add that 22 million to the 5.8 million Americans that were already unemployed at the end of February, that means that almost 28 million Americans are now unemployed. That's the official number that's been reported. We know it's higher than that. Gig economy workers, freelancers, self-employed, people who are trying to file, can't get through, all that kind of stuff. But 28 million Americans right now are unemployed. No, that's 22 in the last week.
Oh.
But here's the worst part. 28 million Americans out of 165 million that are considered in the labor force means that we are at 16% unemployment right now.
It says that this has nearly wiped out all the job gains since the Great Recession.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, 16% unemployment is horrendous, right? And to put it in historical context, during the Great Depression, 1929, before the Great Depression started, unemployment was at 3.1%. Right? So a historic low, similar to what we just had in February with 3.5%. It's a very similar situation. It took from 1929 to 1930 to go from 3.5 to about 8.5%. And then in 1931, 2 years later, it took, we eventually got to over 15%. It was like 15.8% or something. And then, and only then, did we go up over 20% in year three in 1932, 1933, 1934. And so what's scary about this is we went from 3.5%, which is very low, to we're now at 16% in a month. I mean, 6 weeks, right? 4 to 6 weeks, we're already there. And so similar to how like the virus, everyone's worried about how fast it can spread, right? What I'm worried about is the rate at which this is happening. It took 2 years to go from 3% and change to 15% during the Great Depression. We've done that in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So at this rate, we'll see 20% unemployment by the end of Q2, right? And I mean, literally by the end of June, we'll have 20% unemployment in the United States.
Yeah, they expect the April jobless rate to be 15 to 20%.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. So, okay, so now the government's talking about a possible May timeline for reopening the economy in some way. How is that going to affect the jobless rate?
Well, so here's the sad part, right? And this is where you have to remember, when I say 28 million Americans are out of work, every single one of those numbers is a human that had a job or should have a job and doesn't. 28 million of them is a massive number, right? 16% of the workforce. What I'm worried about is when they turn the economy back on, first of all, if you're a restaurant, let's say you employed 100 people, when they now say, okay, turn back on, you're not going to have 100% of your customers come back on day one. So you may hire back 50, 60, 70, maybe even 80% of the people that you had. Right. And so you're still not going to hire back 100% of them right out of the gate. You may do it over time, but not initially. So there will be some people who can't go back to their jobs, and that will keep unemployment at a higher level. We won't go back to 3.5%. On top of that, though, how many small businesses aren't coming back?
A lot.
25, 30, 50%. I don't know what the number is, but it's going to be a double-digit percentage of companies that got shut down by the government, and they're not going to come back. And all of those jobs are going to be lost, the job opportunities. And so what ends up happening here is this unemployment number is going to stay high for a while. But the solution to the unemployment, get Americans back to work by opening the economy.
Or
that's the simple answer. What's the complex answer?
Or the next, well, are we moving on to the next topic?
Yes, next topic.
Some House Democrats want to introduce a plan to pay Americans $2,000 a month until the economy recovers from COVID-19. What does recovers mean?
Okay, so let's set the stage real quick. So far, the government has acknowledged there's really high unemployment. There are people suffering. We need to help. That's step one. That's great that they've acknowledged that. Step two then is, how do we help?
Yeah.
So far, what they've decided to do is launch stimulus packages, right? Those stimulus packages have two core components for individuals. The first is they've beefed up unemployment insurance. So if you used to apply for unemployment insurance, you now can get what you would have gotten, plus I think it's up to $600 more a week. So they're trying to get people more money into their hands, right? That's the first step. The second step is they've also offered up to $1,200 for some number of Americans as a one-time payment, right? We talked about before, kind of a bribe to keep the social unrest at bay. And so that $1,200 payment is now starting to hit. But as we've previously discussed, it doesn't help people for a long period of time. It may help them for a month, right? Yeah. And so what this proposal is two lawmakers have come forward and they call it the Emergency Money to the People Act. Let's bail out the people. So let's describe what it is first, and then we'll talk about whether we think it's good or not.
So
go ahead.
So U.S. citizens who are over the age of 16 and make less than $130,000 a year would receive cash payments from the federal government for at least 6 months and until unemployment falls to pre-pandemic levels. So the whole question is, what if that never happens? What if it takes years?
Well, hold on. The cash payment is $2,000 a month.
Right.
So they would pay you $2,000 a month.
Actually, quite a bit of money.
It's $24,000 a year, which is basically under the poverty line, though. So basically, they would pay you $2,000 a month every month until we reach the unemployment levels of pre-COVID, which means that we'd have to drop back now to 3.5% unemployment. Newsflash, yellow flag, penalty.
Don't be waving around my cleaning supplies. Penalty.
This is socialism. Here's why. Universal basic income is exactly what this is talking about. They are proposing universal basic income. They can call it emergency money for the people. It sounds great. Power to the people, all this stuff. Flag. It's socialism. Here's why. If you're going to give people $2,000 a month and you do it every single month, there's two problems with why you'll never stop. The first is if you say that we have to go back to pre-pandemic levels of unemployment, that means that we have to get back to 3.5%, which was a historic low. It will take 10 years or more to get there, right? That is the low at the height of an economic boom. So you'll have to go through a whole nother cycle to get there. They'll be giving people $2,000 a month forever. The second and the more important thing is this is political suicide for a politician. There is not a politician in the world who is going to stand up and say, we've given you $2,000 a month every month for the last 3 years, and now we're taking it away.
Right.
No way. It's not going to happen. And so what ends up happening is we now have to make a decision. Are we going to go to universal basic income or are we not, right? In some weird way, these people are making Andrew Yang seem conservative, right? Because he only wanted to give people $1,000.
Although Andrew Yang came out, I think it was today, said you need to give people more money than these $1,200.
Of course. So now you're going to give them $2,000. Here's a great fact. Eric Voorhees from Shapeshift pointed this out. If they were to do what they're proposing in this Emergency Money to the People Act, it would be $400 billion a month in cost to the government, which is more money than the government spends, everything combined right now a month. So they would basically be at least doubling their expenses on a monthly basis. And they would, based on the current Fed's balance sheet, it would be 5% or more increase every single month with no end in sight.
Right.
And so what you do is you've got to make a decision. Do we stay to the capitalistic ideals that we hold, or do we move into this socialistic world where there's a social safety net? There's people smarter than me. They're going to make this decision. Guess what? Our opinions actually don't really matter. There's elected officials. They're going to make the decision. The idea right now of giving people money when they're absolutely begging for help seems like it's going to be pretty popular with the people, but it just puts us on a slippery slope.
Right, but it's important to note that this is just the bill proposed by these two Democrats. There's going to be, I think, lots of different types of things proposed in this time. It's just you have to pay attention to what's going on, but this is not set in stone by any means.
Socialism alert, penalty.
These are my cleaning supplies, and now you're just...
It's a yellow flag. Penalty. I'm just saying.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. What we got for us?
Blue jeans.
Boop, boop. Like put pants on?
No.
Oh.
So you know how you don't even wear jeans anymore.
I know. I wear sweatpants, shorts, whatever. Let's go.
Sweatpants, shorts. And tell them about our argument the other day.
She got mad at me because I got mad at her for washing my sweatpants shorts. She said it's been 2 weeks. I said, so what's wrong with going to 3 weeks without washing them? Who cares? Let's go. Blue jeans.
Blue jeans. So Verizon is swooping in and wants to buy one of Zoom's biggest competitors called Blue Jeans. It's a work from home, remote virtual video conferencing company. I don't know.
I don't think they promote themselves as a work from home company, but yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, with all these people working remotely because of coronavirus, I think Verizon sees an opportunity.
Agreed. Do you think it's a good purchase or bad purchase?
I mean, so they're going to pay less than $500 million. I don't know.
$500 million sounds so cheap in the age where we're talking about trillions of stimulus.
I was going to say that's a massive deal, but then we're talking about trillions and billions.
Yeah, the big thing here is obviously this entire sector of video conferencing has exploded. People see the value. Stock prices are going up. Zoom has seen it absolutely take off. What is interesting, though, is that Zoom, Slack, and Microsoft Teams are kind of the leaders in the categories. What is this thing called? Blue Jeans is popular, but it's not nearly as popular as the other ones. And so I think go ahead.
It recently.
Ooh, you see her interrupt me like that? Dang! Go ahead.
It recently became profitable, which is a rare thing to say in the world of tech.
Oh my God, we should have a standing ovation. Somebody figured out that the point of business is to be profitable. Eye roll. All right, so here's the deal. I think that it's smart. We're going to see a bunch of consolidation. It's very interesting that they're doing it right now when I'm assuming that Blue Jeans has taken off in growth and revenue. And if that's the case, I wonder if actually on a multiple basis, they overpay. And then once the economy comes back, do people stop using it as much as it becomes less popular? Like, it wouldn't surprise me to see a corporation make a panicked move into buying something and then regret it 6 months later.
Yeah, but also it's a good time to buy something like Blue Jeans because Zoom right now is being criticized for its security and privacy practices. And I believe the Department of Education in New York actually banned schools from using Zoom. So
newsflash, nobody cares.
Why?
It makes headlines. Yeah, there's they lose a customer here or there.
But
nobody cares.
The whole Department of Education. It's not one customer.
Nobody cares. They went from 10 million daily actives or monthly actives to 200. Literally, they exploded 20x growth. Nobody cares. And for every headline that you see that people are like, oh, the security, whatever, nobody cares. It's like TikTok, right? Oh, TikTok's owned by China. Nobody cares. They got 90 million people using it or whatever.
But it's still owned by China.
900 million.
Okay. Facebook.
Are we moving on to Facebook?
Yes. What's going on with Facebook?
Facebook? What are they doing? They're starting to warn people who like or react to fake coronavirus news. This is a slippery slope. I used to work at Facebook. I'm a huge fan. I really, really believe in the team there. I genuinely believe they're great people, and they try to do their best, but they are faced with highly complex decisions. This is one of them. On one hand, you want to make decisions to try to prevent the spread of fake news. You want to try to, incentivize people not to post that stuff, etc. On the other hand, you enter into this weird debate of what's fake news and what's not fake news. And I'll give you a perfect example. So I'll give you two examples. The first is Zero Hedge is a popular Twitter account. And Zero Hedge about 6 weeks ago posted an article claiming that the coronavirus could have potentially started in the virology lab at the University of Wuhan. And that all they basically claimed was that there's a study of coronaviruses going on there, and it got out from the lab and basically spread around the world. They were kicked off Twitter, and pretty much everyone laughed at them and said, no way, no, how is that true? You guys are conspiracy theorists, all this stuff. We now have U.S. intelligence officers that are saying they are looking at this as a credible potential story, and they're trying to figure out how much validity it has. And it's being reported by the mainstream press now. And so what ends up happening is 6 weeks ago, you had coronavirus in the Wuhan lab was thought of as fake news, conspiracy theory, etc. You guys hear that? We're going to cut that part of the audio, and I'm just going to run that as a loop in our life over and over and over and over again.
I thought he saw that on some like conspiracy.
No, it's on real things, Business Insider, etc. So the other piece of it, though, is now it's not considered fake news. Now it's a plausible thing, right? There's senators talking about it, etc.
Okay.
So my point is, do we want Facebook being the arbiter of what's real and what's not? Probably not. Facebook doesn't want to do that either. So what they usually do in these situations, they go and they build these committees where it's like fact checkers and all this kind of stuff. And they use those committees to determine. The problem is another situation would have been when the CDC and the WHO said that masks don't work.
Mask. That's what I thought about.
They're liars.
Well, no,
do you now say, Paulina and Pomp are saying masks are necessary, go buy a mask, put a mask on, versus the CDC and the WHO? Facebook and that committee are more likely to side with CDC and WHO and say, you guys are spreading fake news, we get punished, but actually in reality, we're right and they're wrong.
But later, the face mask thing, it was an evolution, right? First they were saying one thing, then they got more facts, learned about the situation, and then they changed that. What do you mean? Listen,
I ain't had no facts. They think that we're stupid. The masks work. Everyone knew that. Literally, people in January were like, put a mask on. The CDC, what it came out is they didn't get new facts. What they were trying to do was they were trying to prevent people from going to buy up the masks so there were some for healthcare workers. So they knowingly lied to people.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, because there's a shortage globally. So what they said is, you don't need a mask. It doesn't work, because they didn't want you to go buy the mask. They're trying to drive down demand. Google it, because I read the internet. And so the whole point is the idea of fake news all comes down to how do you determine what's fake and what's not. And the second you get into this world of somebody's going to decide what's fake and what's not, I think it's a really slippery slope. And rather than try to say what's fake and what's not, I think that they should literally let all of the information get published and then allow people to determine that.
Yes, but you don't understand that if you're in a certain Facebook bubble and you're following all these people in a small town, whatever, and they're posting fake news, you're like, oh my God.
The New York Times posts fake news.
It could lead to mass panic.
The New York Times posts fake news. They've retracted stories. There's a bunch of fake news, right? By the way, and it's on both sides. Liberal and conservative papers post things that are inaccurate, misleading, etc. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to ban the New York Times from Facebook?
Well, I think right now journalists need to have a very, very, they have a big responsibility to society in not publishing things that are biased or speculative or politicized. And I think what you're trying to say is that, see what I'm doing, is that a lot of the information is politicized. So it's very hard to determine fake news, politicized news.
No, I'm going to take a step further. Here, you guys want some real fire for today? There is no such thing as unbiased news. It's written by a human. They're all biased. Rather than say, I'm unbiased, I'm holier than thou, let me just sit here and write unbiased news. Instead, what they should say is, here are my bias, here is my opinion, here is my understanding of the facts, and here's my conclusion, and then allow the reader to understand what this person is saying, seek out contradicting opinions, and then make their own decision.
How many people would actually do that?
It doesn't matter how many people will do it. It's the fact that that's what they should do, and whether people do it or not, right on the receiving end, that's up to the people.
Okay, I have opinions here.
All right, we got TikTok. 1 minute, 10 seconds. Can we get through TikTok?
Ooh, I just accepted it. So TikTok now lets parents set restrictions on their kids' accounts, including restricted content mode, setting screen time limits, and the ability to disable direct messaging. Thoughts?
I think this is actually a good thing.
Yeah, and you know why he thinks it's a good thing? Because yesterday we were on TikTok and we were going through, and you were like, oh my God, what if my daughter was posting videos?
No, Paulina showed me a video of a mom and her daughter. The daughter's like 6 years old, and the daughter's twerking like she's a stripper on a pole in her pajamas. And I'm like, listen, what are these people doing, letting their kids do this crazy shit on the internet? This is nuts. True? No. Am I wrong?
Yes.
What am I wrong?
Her parents decided that was okay, and that's how they were going to raise their child.
Again, that's fine. But what if I don't want my kid to see that?
Okay.
Now I got tools to do it. I don't even have a kid. Can you imagine if I had a kid? That'd be fucking wild. Hopefully it would look like her. All right. Hopefully. What else? We got 10 seconds. Any messages for the people?
Be kind to your friends and to strangers.
And to strangers now, rather than to strangers?
Like all of them. Everyone. People who are your friends and people who you want to become your friends.
That's very prophetic of you to say something like that. All right, guys, remember, Lunch Money bringing you the truth. While Wall Street's trying to get rich, the rest of us are trying to get our lunch money right. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Leave us a comment. Polina reads them all, tells me the funny ones. I go through and try to respond to as many of you as I can. We appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you're learning. Go share the URL. And extra points if you leave comments making fun of Polina. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Why would he say that?